sao ing ring shring ka la ring asaka ring sakala ring sao ein kling ring shring Om. Namaste. So, sometime back, we published a video called the Mātṛkā prayer, or mātṛka-śtuti. So this mātṛka-śtuti is from the Tripura Rahasya, the secret of the goddess of the three worlds. And it's very, very deep. It contains multiple mysteries. So I didn't try to explain anything about it in the video itself. I was just reading directly from the scriptures. But I was very surprised that there were no intelligent inquiries into the meaning of the multiple mysteries given in this prayer. So, even though there's a lot that I could say about it, I mean really a lot, I compiled nearly 100 pages of documentation just trying to explain it to myself. But given the lack of interest, I mean, you know, from the very beginning of this channel, we've talked about terminology and language, ontology, and how ontology really determines consciousness. Because if you encounter a phenomenon that you don't have any word for, generally you can't be conscious of it. Why? Because you can't discriminate it from anything else. So I was very surprised when this Mātṛkā prayer video introduced several very deep, obscure, esoteric terms, and nobody asked for a definition. So at that point, I just went, these guys aren't serious, you know. So, I mean, what can I do? You know, first of all, if you haven't watched that video, you know, you should watch it now. Check out this link and follow it. Otherwise, everything I'm saying here is going to be meaningless to you. So this is the problem. In all these years of doing this channel, nobody has really understood or taken up the practices. I mean, at least as far as I can tell, maybe somebody's doing it hiding off in a corner someplace and not letting me know. But that seems weird too. So, I find it very difficult to understand, because when I looked at this prayer and came across the very mysterious sayings in it, I had to look everything up in the Sanskrit dictionary. I had to go into it and get to the bottom of it and find the meaning of it, and I was very glad I did. Because this prayer, if you understand it, reveals that the Sanskrit alphabet is not just a collection of letters. It's actually the story of creation and the subtle sound vibrations that are used by the gods to create this universe. I just went, wow. Now, when we went through the Buddha's teaching of Paticca-samuppada, I tell you another topic that nobody has really understood, even among Buddhists. Now, all the Buddhist teachers that I could find, in Thailand and Sri Lanka, they all misunderstood it. So, except for Jnanananda, Bhikkhu Jnanananda. And we've linked to his books and his teachings plenty of times in this channel. So if you've been following this channel at all, or if you understand anything of what's going on here, you will have seen that and have access to his teaching. So I'm not going to go into that any further. But the question is, when we read in Paticca-samuppada that name and form gives rise to consciousness. You see, this is exactly what I was talking about, that ontology, our background knowledge of what can exist in the world and the terminology that describes it, creates our consciousness. And if we have a terminology, if we have a background theory of what exists in the universe, that determines our perception of that universe. Don't take my word for it. Look into it for yourself and figure it out. And you'll find, as I did, that most people miss. They have spiritual experiences all the time, like every day. But they don't recognize these spiritual experiences because they don't have the terminology. We've talked about misunderstood terms. Well, you can have a misunderstood experience too. And what happens when you don't have a term and you have an experience but no language to describe it is that you throw it in the mental garbage can. You ignore it. This is called ignorance. You see? So because of ignorance, everybody is having spiritual experiences all the time. But they don't recognize them. So they don't make any advancement. But anyway, name and form. What is this name and form? Well, name is language, and form are the perceptions that we use to symbolize in language. So if I see this tall thing with leaves on it and branches, I call it a tree. And so we all have terminology for the common things in ordinary life: tree, house, car, man, sky, and so on. But we don't have terminology, adequate terminology, for the things that really create the experience that we have. Our consciousness and how it comes into being. So when the Buddha says name and form creates consciousness, well, what is the origin of name? See? Where does name come from? Where does language come from? What is the ultimate meaning of language? And then we find the Sanskrit language. The Sanskrit language is said to be eternal, and that it manifests when the universe is created. Well, that sounds like a tall tale, doesn't it? But just consider this. The first two letters of the Sanskrit alphabet are A and A. And when a baby is born, what's the first thing he says? Ah! What is this place? When the baby's happy, he goes, ah. And when he wants something, he goes, ah, maybe all night long. Ah, get me out of this. So we can understand that the Sanskrit language is actually based on the reality of creation. And it is the process of creation. And it details how Sadashiva, or Brahman, becomes differentiated, first into Shiva and Shakti, and then into the various other Shaktis, Ananda Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, and so on. And this is how the world is created. So we are trapped in the world. And liberation is the process of getting free from that trap. So to get free from the trap, to spring the trap, as it were, and get out, you have to know how the trap is constructed, how the world is created. What is its foundation? It turns out the foundation is language. Specifically the letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, which are called Devanagari. Devanagari means the city of the gods. There are 33 million demigods, according to the Vedas. And so their language is Sanskrit. And the alphabet is Devanagari. This is where the gods live. Because they have command of this Sanskrit language, they can create. They have all kinds of powers that us ordinary beings don't have. Why? Because we never look into the foundation of language. So, okay, I have all this material that I researched on this topic, which is very deep, okay, and complicated, because the world is complicated. Language is complicated, because it's a trap. So, I could do a very extensive series on this topic, but given the very kind of lackluster interest and lukewarm response to these videos, I question whether it's worth the effort. So I was talking last night with Om Shiva, my friend in Germany. He's my oldest, I don't know what you call it, follower, student, friend, whatever. He's been following my work since more than 10 years. Maybe 12 years, I'm not quite sure. Anyway, we were talking about it, and he was telling me, look, there are some people out there who really get it and really value this knowledge. And I'm going, if there are, I don't know who they are. You know, they don't talk to me, so as far as I know, nobody's getting it. And especially because I don't hear back from people speaking the language, the terminology of any of these great teachings. So I have found a section of the Sri Vidya, the Shaivite and Shakya teaching, that explains Buddha's cryptic reference to name and form. Now, this teaching was current in the same part of India where Buddha taught at the same time he taught. So it was probably part of the background of any of the educated brahmanas that Buddha spoke with. So if Buddha said name and form, they would automatically associate it with this Tāntrik teaching that was current in India at that place and time. Historically, it's a perfect match. So Buddha was not separate from the context in which he arose. And that context was the Shakya teaching. So this Tāntrik teaching was spread everywhere in India, especially in Bengal and that whole northeastern part of India at that time. So everybody that Buddha met, at least the educated, intelligent class of people, would immediately associate name and form with this teaching. And I finally penetrated to this teaching and found it and have it in actually pretty good shape to present it, and the practices that go along with it that allow you to realize it. But does anybody care? You know? I've always been astounded, actually, flabbergasted at the lack of intelligent response to these videos. So if you all take this seriously and you really want to know the amazing stuff that I've discovered, then you have to make some kind of response that motivates me by thinking, oh, there's somebody with a brain out there who actually cares about this stuff and is willing to commit to realizing and practicing it. So whether we continue this series or not depends on your response. Om Tat Sat. Aum Shakti Aum.
The universe is the mysterious creation of a vast intelligence. The origin of the world and life is beyond human understanding. The Vedas describe how consciousness is transformed into energy and matter. This process of creation and becoming is going on today, right now. This is not a theory or a religious doctrine. With these keys of understanding, you can see it for yourself.
Namaste. So now for the grand finale, where we tie together all the themes that we have explored in this whole series, and then we'll introduce you to a trove of information about the Mātṛkā, which is, after all, the theme of this whole series. So let's just go back and review for a few minutes. Remember, we started showing the evolution of sound with the 5 tattvas, the non-dual tattvas that emerge from Brahman or Parashiva. And the Shiva tattva gives rise to Parashabda, transcendental sound. The Shakti tattva gives rise to Pashyanti Shabda, which is speech. Sadashiva tattva gives rise to Madhyama Shabda, which is the silent chanting of mantras. Ishvara tattva gives rise to Vaikari Shabda, the subtle sound that is carried in the heart. And finally, Shuddha Vidya Tattva is the gross speech that we know as words and language. Next, we saw how Parashiva emits the Karana Bindu, or cause, whereas Parashakti emanates the Karya Bindu, or the effect. Then these combine to form the Sita and Shona Bindus, which combine to form the Nada Bindu. So all sound, all nada, is the combination of Shiva and Shakti. And we call these the Tribindu, or Kamakala. Kamakala is ing, the root of all mantras. And this Kamakala emits the various sounds from the 3 bindus, Sita, Shona, and Mishra. And we went through all these in the previous series. So next, we showed how the Pashyanti Shabda, the language, the beginning of language in subtle sound, emits the Madhyama Shabda, which is the beginning of vocalization, still silent, but now differentiated. And this gives rise to the Mātṛkā, the alphabet, which develops into the gross Shabda, Vaikari Shabda, or speech, with its syllables, words, and sentences. And finally, we want to show the Vaikari Shabda, how it manifests in the Mātṛkā with 51 akṣara, or letters. The Devata, or the 51 goddesses of the Sri Chakra, or Sri Yantra. Nyāsa, the 51 nadis of the body, and their associated goddesses, and finally, pīta, the 51 places or locations around India which are the temples of these 51 goddesses. Now, we're not going to enumerate all these 51 things, or actually 4 times 51, in this video. But what we did was we made a collection of documents. There are 3 documents which are linked in the description of this video, which you can download, and contain a wealth of information that's too much to put in a video, but it's all very useful. And it also contains practices. So let's go over these one at a time, what is going to be present in these documents, and then I'll explain how they interrelate. First of all is the 51 letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, the akṣara. Now, each of the aksharas has a meaning. Each letter of the Sanskrit alphabet has a meaning. It's probably the only language in the world, at least to my knowledge, where the letters have significance. In every other language, they don't have any significance until they form words. But in Sanskrit, the letters themselves have meaning. So this is a tremendous advance over any other language in the world. So we have in one document the 51 aksharas and their meanings and the goddesses, the shaktis, associated with each one. Then in the next document, we give the 51 goddesses again. It's almost like where the first document leaves off, the second document takes up. We show the 51 goddesses and the letters that they're associated with, and the places on the body where those goddesses reside, or where their influence should be felt to give optimum health and consciousness. And there's a ritual called nyāsa. Nyāsa means that we take that vibration and using a mudra like this, the third finger and the thumb together, we place that mantra in the proper place on the body. And there are 51 places all over the body, the face and everything, which are detailed in this document, and which show how to practice this nyāsa. Finally, the third document shows the 51 pītas, Shakti pītas, which are locations all over India, Greater India, including Bangladesh and what is now Pakistan. And these temples are exactly corresponding to the 51 letters of the alphabet, parts of the body, and the goddesses. So, first of all, let me tell you the story. When Daksha was performing a great sacrifice, he very pointedly did not invite Lord Shiva. Daksha was a householder, and he didn't like that Shiva was a renunciant living in the forest and hanging out with ghosts and demons and just meditating and not earning money and like this. So he was, Shiva is kind of like the first hippie. So Daksha didn't invite him, but his daughter, Uma, didn't like this at all. So she showed up at the sacrifice. And as Shiva's wife, she was completely dedicated to him. And then when she heard Daksha disrespect Shiva, she immolated herself with self-caused fire. And then Shiva came with his army and destroyed the entire sacrifice. And he kind of went a little bit crazy. And he took Uma's body, or what was left of her body, And he was roaming around the cosmos, just wailing and crying and freaking out, you know. And everything in the universe was going crazy because of him. He has so much power that when he freaks out, like everybody freaks out. So Vishnu was called upon by the demigods to please solve this problem. So Vishnu approached Shiva and cut up the body of Uma, the dead body, into 51 pieces. And these 51 pieces landed in different spots in India, and temples were built at each place. And so these are the 51 temples or places of pilgrimage, which exist today, and which you can go to and perform the appropriate rites, or you can, by mantra, by doing this process, you can get the same benefit as darshan of those temples. So these are the things all based on the Mātṛkā, the 51 letters. So you might ask, well, what is this Mātṛkā? The Mātṛkā is a matrix. Matrix, of course, means an origin, a mother, and it also means like a table with rows and columns, like a crossword puzzle or something. And this organizes the 51 letters into several categories. So let me show you. The first category is the Sanskrit vowels. A, I, U, Ri, A, I, O, Au, the anuswara, the nasal termination, and Ha, the visarga, or the final aspiration. Then there are the Sanskrit consonants. First, the gutturals, ka, ka, ga, ga, na. Then the palatals, cha, cha, ja, ja, nya. Then the cerebrals, ta, ta, da, da, na. The dentals, ta, ta, da, da, na. The labials, pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. The semivowels, ya, ra, la, va. And the sibilants, sha, sha, and sa. Now maybe it's hard for Western people especially to tell the difference between some of these pronunciations. But here in India, especially Hindi speakers in North India, can hear the difference between these different consonants. And so when you speak and use the proper tongue position and mouth position, they go, oh yeah, you know this. So this is why I'm very particular about Sanskrit pronunciation and writing in all of our videos and course materials. And all of our course students have to go through a course on Sanskrit where they learn to write, at least in the IAAST, the International Alphabet for Sanskrit Transliteration, which you see next to the letters on these alphabet charts. And also, they learn to pronounce them properly, because after all these years, I can hear the difference. But anyway, these are more than just sounds. Each of these sounds has a meaning, and those meanings are given in the documents. So you should download these documents if you're at all serious about this, you know. If you're not just viewing this for entertainment or thrills, you know. Oh, wow, Swamiji said something really far out. No, it's meant for serious study and contemplation. And with a Sanskrit dictionary, you can see how the meanings of the letters combine to form the meanings of the words. So I'm not going to go into all of that now. That's for our serious students on our course site. And what I want you to bear in mind or take away from this video is that there is a seamless integration from the very first vibration of duality in the universe, Aum, right down the line through all the generations of the tattvas and the substances of the creation, through to the language, the letters, the pronunciation, and the mantras. And when the mantras, the Sanskrit mantras, are correctly pronounced, they have creative potency equal to that of the Godhead. Try to understand. This is why, in my early days as a disciple under my Adi Guru, I did so many things that I didn't understand just on his authority, just because I trusted him, just because I could see that he's in an exalted state of consciousness. Then I followed his instructions, and we did so many things like that in the temple. But now, after 50 years of additional research, I found the scriptural sources that give the reasons for all these instructions. And now I understand why we were to do all those things. And I also can understand why he didn't have time to explain everything. Because it takes a tremendous amount of knowledge to understand why the different practices of yoga and so forth are the way they are, and why they should not be any other way. So when I hear, for example, a Western speaker pronounce the word Ananda, I go, no, it's Ananda, you see? And, then there's the really hard words, like Sarshti. These are really hard to pronounce for Westerners. But if you can pronounce them properly and speak the mantras at the right time, at the right point in the ceremony, in the right place, and in the right association, you get the results. So what we're after is a result, okay? And we're giving the tools of how to attain that result. And this is the wisdom that leads to liberation. Om Tat Sat. Om Shakti Om.
The universe is the mysterious creation of a vast intelligence. The origin of the world and life is beyond human understanding. The Vedas describe how consciousness is transformed into energy and matter. This process of creation and becoming is going on today, right now. This is not a theory or a religious doctrine. With these keys of understanding, you can see it for yourself.
Namaste. So last time we talked about the 36 tattvas, and today we're going to talk about how the sound vibration, shabda, evolves from those tattvas. Now remember, last time we showed how Parashiva, who is nothing but Brahman, emanates the first 5 tattvas. Shiva tattva, the power of consciousness. Shakti tattva, the power of bliss. Sadashiva tattva, the power of will. Ishvara tattva, the power of knowledge. And Shuddha Vidya tattva, the power of action. Now these 5 have their associated Shaktis. Shiva tattva has the Chit Shakti. Shakti tattva has the Ananda Shakti. Sadashiva tattva has the Ichcha Shakti. Ishvara tattva has the Jnana Shakti. And Shuddha Vidya tattva has the Kriya Shakti. And all of these are part of the non-dual creation. That is, internally, although they have different external manifestations, there is no difference. There is no differentiation. They are one being. This is why Shiva has 5 faces. There's also a form of Shakti like that. So whether we're talking about the Nirguna Brahman or Saguna Brahman, internally they are one, although they may have various external manifestations. So in that stage, there is no need for sound vibration. There's no need for symbols or language or communication, because who are you going to talk to? There's only one self with a capital S. But then, in the next stage, we showed how Shiva gives rise to these 5 tattvas, right? And each of these tattvas has an associated type of shabda, or sound vibration. For the Shiva tattva, it's called para-shabda, which means supreme. For Shakti tattva, it's called pashyanti shabda. Pashyanti means a subtle sound vibration, not yet manifest. Sadashiva tattva has the madhyama shabda, which is a little less subtle, but still not manifest. And finally, Ishvara tattva has the Vaikari shabda, the subtle part of Vaikari shabda, and Shuddha Vidya tattva has the gross part of Vaikari shabda. So the gross part of Vaikari shabda is the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Vedanta, the Tantras, all the Vedic literatures are in the Shuddha Vidya. Shuddha means pure, but Vidya means limited knowledge. Limited by what? Name and form. Our old friend, Nama Rupa. Because every symbol or every word symbolizes a certain form. You cannot have a word that symbolizes the formless, only in the abstract. In reality, they have form, even if it's only the negation of form. For example, shunyata means emptiness or nothingness. But what is the definition of it? The absence of form. You see? There has to be something for there to be nothing. So the something is implied in the definition because it means the absence of that something, the absence of everything. So the assumptions or the implications of the definition make the word limited, even though it refers to something unlimited, like Parashiva, for example, or Brahman, for example. We know the word, but we don't know the thing that it refers to unless we become self-realized. That's an important distinction. So then what happens? Well, before we talked about Parashiva, the first tattva, and Parashakti, the second tattva. Now, what happens to them? How do they then emit the sound vibration that creates the creation? Well, the Parashiva, as you recall, his sound vibration is called Parashabda, or Nada Tattva. And the Parashakti, her sound vibration is called Pashyanti Shabda, or Bindu Tattva. Now these tattvas are in addition to the 36 tattvas we went over before. The Parashabda creates a Bindu called Sita, white in color. And the Pashyanti Shabda creates a Bindu called Shona, red in color. Then these two Bindus combine to form the Mishra Bindu. And the three of them together are called the Tri Bindu, or Kāma-kāla. Kāma-kāla we have run into before. If you've been following, if you've been paying attention, Kāma-kāla is the bija ing. And ing is the root of all mantras. It is the sound, along with krong, that fructifies the other mantras, because it is the highest mantra. And from this ing, this tribindu, this triangle, all other bindus, all other shabdas, all other manifestations take place. Let's look at the emanations or the different transformations of these three bindus. Remember, the Sita bindu is white, Shona bindu is red, and Mishra bindu is mixed. So they are also known as bindu, nada, and bija. Prakasha, Vimarsha, and Prakasha Vimarsha. Prakasha means the visible light, the self-effulgent Shiva. And Vimarsha means the reflection or the particularization or individualization of that light. And the two of them combined are Prakasha Vimarsha. Then there's Ichcha-shakti, Jnana-shakti, and Kriya-shakti. Vama, Jeshta, and Raudri, the feminine forms associated with the three demigods, Brahma, Vishnu, and Rudra. And finally, there's moon, fire, and sun. There are many more. Because of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, they're also associated with the three gunas, passion, or Raja for Brahma, Sattva or goodness for Vishnu, and Tamas or ignorance for Rudra, because he's the destroyer. But then the moon and fire are called Kala, and the sun is called Kama, because he stimulates everyone to go out and search out their desires. So the two of them together, the Tribindu, named Kāma-kāla, or the bija ing. Now then, these three, all together in their various permutations, generate the mātṛkas, the vaikari shabda, the subtle sound, the intention to speak and create. And the mātṛkas generate the vaikari shabda, the gross sound vibration, which consists of varna, letters, pada, words, and vakya, sentences. So these are the actual Vedas. These are the scriptures. These are the words that guide the rest of the creation. Look at it this way. Shiva and Shakti, literally, they sit down together and they sing the cosmos into manifestation. And this is why the Vedas are so deep and subtle, why there are so many hidden meanings. Just like when two people are intimate, they develop their own language, isn't it? They develop their own slang, hidden meanings that nobody else understands, that come from shared experiences. So Shiva and Shakti have experiences together that nobody else shares, because they are together before the creation of the universe and after the destruction, after the pralaya, even the Mahā-pralaya at the end of the universe. And then they go into an unmanifested state together. Who knows what goes on? That's between them. That is their own private, intimate pastime. So we have no access to that. So their language that they evolved to talk with each other has many hidden meanings that nobody else can understand, because we don't have the experience. We don't have access to that level of experience. Therefore, the Vedas are very deep very subtle, and their meanings are hidden and confidential. The only way to understand the Vedas is through revelation. And this is called avaroha panta. It means the descending path. See, this is why sound vibration also evolves from subtle to gross, because it's coming down the descending path from the origin of the cosmos, Shiva and Shakti, and then it's reaching us in the form of symbolic language, the Mātṛkā. The Mātṛkā are the sounds that are symbolized by the letters and the words and sentences, and the meanings are derived from the meanings of the sounds, the Mātṛkā. This is why Sanskrit is so extremely subtle and also extremely powerful. And by chanting Sanskrit mantras, all kinds of effects are possible. And we're going to go into this very deeply in the further episodes of this series, the mysteries of the Mātṛkā. And before we do that, though, before we show how mantras come out of these syllables, we have to go into the syllables themselves. So the next episodes are going to discuss the Mātṛkā, the 51 letters of the Sanskrit alphabet, which you have to know, and you have to know their meanings in order to understand the words in the scriptures. Om Tat Sat. Om Shakti Om.
The universe is the mysterious creation of a vast intelligence. The origin of the world and life is beyond human understanding. The Vedas describe how consciousness is transformed into energy and matter. This process of creation and becoming is going on today, right now. This is not a theory or a religious doctrine. With these keys of understanding, you can see it for yourself.
Namaste. So, with great transcendental pleasure, I welcome you to this new series on the ontology of creation. Now, what is creation exactly in the Vedic viewpoint? It's very different from the Western viewpoint. In Western religion, God said, "Let there be light," and all this, And then it seems like he went on vacation. And now science has taken over and says everything's due to chance and all that. Because we don't see the hand of God in that view. But in the Vedic view, it's very different. In the beginning of this channel, way back in the Foundation series, we went over the process of becoming. There's a link to the video, which is the process of paticca samuppada, or specific causality, given by the Buddha. And this process shows the steps, one by one, of how the world comes into being, and also how we come into being, because those two processes are not separate. And the problem with paticca samuppada is it's not very detailed. It's hard to understand what is going on under the hood or behind the scenes. And especially, it's very difficult to use that knowledge to view how creation is ongoing in the present time. I don't think any of our students or viewers have really understood it. So we're going to try again, this time from the Vedic viewpoint. I started some time ago to describe the Mātṛkā. The Mātṛkā is the matrix of the 51 letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. And I encountered a difficulty with that. And I had to think over it and contemplate for some time until I understood the nature of the difficulty and why I couldn't proceed. And the difficulty is the lack of background, the lack of ontology. My friend the peacock next door. I feed him every day. He's gotten quite friendly. So because of the lack of background, when we start talking about the Vedic process of creation through sound, then it's very difficult to understand. So these few videos will give the background knowledge or the ontology necessary to understand the Vedic creation of process which is going on at every moment. And what is the key to this? Tattva. Okay, what is a tattva? A tattva means a truth or a principle. It means something that is essential to the existence, evolution, and maintenance of the universe. And in Vedic philosophy and Sri Vidya, there are 36 tattvas. So we're going to go through these 36 tattvas, and then in the next video we can start talking about sound, shabda. The tattvas begin from Parashiva. Parashiva is the transcendent reality, Brahman. And the qualities of this reality are Nishkala, without parts, Nishkriya, without activity, Ashabda, beyond words, and Amanasaka, beyond mind. So the transcendent reality is inconceivable. It can't be described. It can't even be perceived. One can experience this reality, but this is the highest stage of self-realization. So in order to approach this highest stage, one needs to go step by step. Therefore, we have to understand how the world came into being and what these steps are in the creation. So beginning from Parashiva, the highest reality, there are 5 tattvas. Shiva tattva, the power of consciousness or chit. Shakti tattva, the power of bliss, ananda. Sadashiva tattva, the power of will, ichcha. Ishvara tattva, the power of knowledge, jnana. And Shuddha Vidya tattva, the power of action, kriya. Now these 5 Shaktis, Chit Shakti, Ananda Shakti, Ichcha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, and Kriya Shakti, are non-dual. Try to understand. They are part and parcel of the Shiva Tattva. So because they are in a state of oneness, because there's no differentiation, there's no need for language, no need for sound, no need for alphabet or any other means of communication, because they are all these tattvas are one and they're in full knowledge. So the need for language comes in the next stage of creation. Thank you for confirming. Now, when these tattvas expand from Parashiva, they expand with a certain type of consciousness. The Shiva Tattva consciousness is I am. Shakti Tattva is you and I are. This is the beginning of differentiation. Sadashiva Tattva is I am this, creation. Ishvara Tattva is this am I, The emphasis shifts from I to this, from God to the creation. And in Shuddha Vidya Tattva, I and this both are. In other words, there is seen an equality between God and the creation. And this is the beginning of ignorance. Because, well, we'll see later on, vidya means limited knowledge. So while in the Parashiva, the knowledge is unlimited, by the time we get down to Shuddha Vidya Tattva, knowledge starts to become limited. This is the beginning of ignorance. So next, from the 5 non-dual tattvas, Shakti Tattva, remember, she's the beginning of separation, of distinction. She generates 5 more tattvas. Māyā Tattva, the energy of illusion. Kala, temporal limitation. Niyati, spatial limitation. Raja, attachment. Vidya, limited knowledge. And Kala, limited agency. In this context, agency means power. So any being that has limited power is no longer the supreme. So this is all the duality, or the creation, the material creation. And these 5 tattvas are together called Pañcaka, which is the same meaning as upadhi. They cover the original absolute truth and make it seem like it's individual and limited. Parashakti emits 5 more tattvas. Purusha Tattva, the individual soul. Prakriti Tattva, the world or nature. Buddhi Tattva, intelligence. Ahankara Tattva, false ego. And Manasa Tattva, the mind. So these are all dualistic creations. These are all perceived and experienced as separate from God, separate from the Absolute. So now that these high-level tattvas have all been generated or emanated from Shakti, what comes next is the creation of the senses. The false ego, Ahankara Tattva, and the mind, Manasa Tattva, then emit the rest of the tattvas. First, the karmendriyas, that means the senses of action, mouth, legs, hands, anus, and genital. Next, the jnanendriyas, the senses of knowledge. The ears perceive hearing, the eyes perceive sight, the nose perceives smell, the tongue is the sense of taste, and the skin is the organ of touch. And these 5 are aware of the tanmatras, the sense objects, sound, form, odor, flavor, and sensation, respectively. And these are carried by the 5 elements: akasha, space; fire, which is plasma; air, which is gas; water, which is liquid; and earth, or solid. Notice that these aren't exactly elements in the sense that the Western mind thinks of elements like chemical elements. Rather, these are the 5 primary states of matter: solid, liquid, gas, plasma, and empty space. So these are the 36 tattvas that are the basis of the entire creation. And these are emitted or emanated or created from the Supreme by sound vibration. And in the next episode, we'll get into how sound vibration develops or evolves in the same way as these tattvas. And then this will start to explain how duality manifests and turns into the world that we see before us and within us. Because this process of creation is not just a one-time thing. It's not that God creates the world and then walks away. That would be irresponsible. And not only that, actually God is the substance of the world. Everything that has being is nothing but Brahman. When the Buddha says Dhamma, a Dhamma means a thing that has real existence. He's talking about Brahman. But Brahman can be covered. Brahman can be hidden. It can be disguised, not transformed, but hidden by upadhis. So this is the state that most of us find ourselves in. We are actually nothing but Brahman. But Brahman is creating the world. And we perceive that as our existence as an individual with a body, living in the creation with so many objects. This is called Jagrat, or everything that be. So this creation, this process is going on every moment. At the subatomic level, it's going on trillions of times a second. And on the human level, it's going on a longer time scale. And of course, on the universal level, the process is going on for millions and billions of years. But it's the same process, just at different scales. So as we go deeper into this, we'll start to understand the process. And the next step is understanding spiritual sound, Shabda Brahman. Om Tat Sat. Om Shakti Om.
The universe is the mysterious creation of a vast intelligence. The origin of the world and life is beyond human understanding. The Vedas describe how consciousness is transformed into energy and matter. This process of creation and becoming is going on today, right now. This is not a theory or a religious doctrine. With these keys of understanding, you can see it for yourself.
Namaste. So earlier in this series, we talked about the creation of the universe in terms of the 36 tattvas. Well, some people say there are 25, and some say 24, and some others say different other numbers. But it really doesn't matter exactly how you divide them up, because the tendency, the whole process of creation, is from subtle to gross, from high to low. So within that, you can analyze the stages differently. For example, Buddha analyzed them in Paticca-samuppada. Sankhya Yoga analyzes them in terms of the tattvas. And different other schools analyze them differently. But this is the same principle. Okay, we're after principles, not so much getting caught up in the details and arguing whether there are, this many tattvas or that many tattvas. That's for stupid people. We're trying to see the top level view, the overall view of the process of creation. Why? Well, it makes a difference in the evolution of speech. And as you may recall from previous series, if you don't have terminology for something in your speech, in your language, in your background ontology, it's very difficult for you to be conscious of it. So let's take a look at the evolution of speech and see specifically how it comes from the beginning. What is the beginning? In the previous series, we went over the creation and we talked about how Parashiva is the origin of everything. And Parashakti is his dynamic energy. So Parashiva creates something called the Karana Bindu. Karana means cause. And this is known as Sita. Whereas Parashakti creates the Karya Bindu. Karya means effect. And that creates the Shona Bindu. So these two, white and red bindus, then combine to form the Nada Bindu. Nada means sound. And this original sound of these three bindu together is called Kāma-kāla. Now, Kāma-kāla is the root mantra, mula mantra, or seed mantra, bija mantra, Ing. Ing is the root of all mantras. All mantras are derived from that. And this is called Pashyanti Shabda. Pashyanti Shabda is the most subtle form of vak, or speech. So from this tree bindu, from this Kāma-kāla, evolves a subtle form of speech called Madhyama. Madhyama Shabda is also the Mātṛkā, or the Sanskrit alphabet. And from that, Vaikari Shabda, or gross speech, develops. And these are the syllables, the letters of the alphabet, the syllables formed from them, the words formed from those, and the sentences formed from words. Now, where this shows up on our analysis of human consciousness into 4 levels, the Chaturdarshanam, you all should be very familiar with this chart by now, is that Ajatavada, the highest level of human consciousness, that is Jnana-yoga and realization of Brahman, or in the Buddha's language, the end of suffering. The kind of vak, or speech, connected with Ajatavada is called para. Para means supreme, transcendent speech, paravak. Then in the Vivartavada, which is the Rāja-yoga, and at the level of being of the Ishvara, the creator, and in Buddha's concept, the path to the end of suffering, it is called Pashyanti Vak. Pashyanti Vak is still subtle, and we'll describe these in detail in the rest of the video. And then in the Vishishtadvaita Vada level, with the Bhakti Yoga, the level of being experienced is the Kutastha, super soul level. And this is the noble truth where one becomes aware of the cause of suffering. And that level of speech is called Madhyama, meaning in the middle. Still subtle, but the beginning of differentiation has occurred. And finally, in Dvaitavada, which is where most pious people are, they're performing karma yoga, and their level of being or consciousness is the jiva, the body, the embodied soul. And that noble truth is the noble truth of suffering. And that level of vak, or speech, is vaikari, or gross, audible speech. So these 4 levels of speech are also the levels of mantra. And as the creation proceeds from subtle to gross, the original sound vibration coming from Parashiva and Parashakti then goes through these 4 stages of evolution. The supreme divine energy is Parashiva, and then he emits or emanates the para-shakti. In the interaction between them, the universe appears, or seems to be. So what is a sound anyway? What is speech? A sound is defined as a periodic alternation between compression and rarefaction of a medium. The medium could be air, usually is air for us, but it can also be water, it can also be earth, fire, or even ether, space. In fact, akasha, or space, is the tattva that conducts sound. But on that level, the sound is in the form of light vibrations. And light is very special because from the viewpoint of light, because it travels at the speed of light, it's eternal. Because it travels at the speed of light, it experiences time compression. And so for light, everything happens all at once. That means on the level of light, the speech is also eternal. But it's very subtle, it's undifferentiated. You can't tell one letter from another, one word from another. There's no differentiation. It's just a single sound, which is denoted by aum. Okay? Of course, this sound has 3 letters. And in the next stage, after this is the para stage, the supreme stage. The pashyanti stage, then the letters of aum, a, u, and begin to be differentiated from one another. And then in the next stage, why? Because there are questions and answers. And the highest scriptures are on this level, the tantras, the discussions between Shiva and Shakti. She is asking Shiva about the world. And he is replying. He's telling her, this is the way it is, right? And then she goes and creates it like that. Next is Madhyama. The Madhyama stage. Now the sound has become differentiated, but still subtle. In other words, it's still not words, but it's sounds. You know, every baby, if you've ever been around a young baby, in the beginning, all they can pronounce are the vowels. Ah, ooh, oh, yow. Yow. Babies are good at that one. So the baby is developing speech in the same sequence as the evolution of language during the creation. See, this is the Hermetic principle, that as the whole universe goes through this process of evolution, so every being, especially human beings, because they're a complete reflection of the whole. So every human being goes through this process of development of speech. And you can read about this in books on developmental psychology and like that. But the point is here that we all develop our own language as we go through the stages of growing up. And then finally, in the Vaikari stage, the Vaikari stage means the letters, words, and sentences start to form meanings. In the previous stage, the meaning and the sound vibration are identical. But in the Vaikari stage, because it's in the Dvaitavada level of consciousness, then the meaning becomes separate from the word, although it still is connected. But still, the meaning is separate from the word. And that's why it's possible to have misunderstood terms in ordinary language that is passed by sound vibration in air. The more subtle stages, like Madhyama, are passed in ether, or even earth, or water in the body. So these stages, the sound is much more subtle, and the sound and the meaning are one. Let's see how that goes. The para level of sound is called Shabda Brahman. Shabda Brahman means the sound of the supreme sound. And it's symbolized by Aum, but it's not exactly Aum. It's hard to describe because, like I said, at this level, the sound vibration is light. The light is traveling in the ether. And this is the basis of the science of astrology, Jyotish. Jyoti means light, and Isha means the controller. So light is the controller. Light is how God controls the universe. And if you study Jyotish of any depth at all, you'll come to see how that's absolutely true. So this nama, this level of nama or sound, shabda, refers to the unmanifest Brahman. Now, these are all namas in the Lalita Sahasranam. And in fact, I'm taking this explanation from the commentary on those namas. So the absolute form of speech is called paravach. Paravach means the supreme form, the supreme speech, the holy word. No, not the Bible. The Bible is far away from understanding any of this. But in the Vedic and Buddhist philosophy, this is well understood, that there is a transcendental word. And from that word, the vibration, the alternation of compression and rarefaction of the medium, whichever medium it happens to be passing through, then the creation develops. We can use the example of a seed. When the seed is latent, when it's just a seed, like a bean, then this is like paravach. Paravach means there's no manifestation. So it's like a seed. But when that seed germinates, then that's the next stage, pashyanti. Pashyanti means that the seed has sprouted and there comes a little shoot, searching for the light. And the little green thread begins to manifest. Now this is when sound is traveling through fire. So the Big Bang, or as we see in our local solar system, the sun also has sound vibrations, and they are passing through fire. They're passing through this ionized gas, which is the fourth stage of matter. And because it's very subtle, it doesn't produce any manifestation. But then later on, when it develops to the stage of madhyama, then the manifestation, the differentiation begins to develop. In the case of the seed, it's when the first leaves start to come out. You ever seen a seed germinate and then the first two leaves come out? This is duality. So although the stage of Shabda at Madhyama is starting to differentiate, it's still one. It's still not producing any manifestation. That happens only in the final stage, of Vaikari stage. And that's like when the seed grows up and develops leaves and flowers and it becomes recognizable. Oh, that's that kind of a plant. Very hard to tell them apart when they're just sprouts. But once they grow up and develop, then easily we can tell one from another. So it's the same thing with the sound. When the sound is manifest in the form of letters and words and sentences, then we can say, oh, this is the meaning. We can identify it and say, oh, okay, like that. It becomes fully manifest. As the sound vibration passes through more and more grosser mediums, then it becomes more and more manifest. More and more duality comes in. And finally, it's completely manifest as speech. And then that means we have to have an alphabet to express that speech. So here we are finally, after this long detour into, well, it's not really a detour, into the process of creation or emanation of the universe. We're finally at the point where we can start to explain the Mātṛkā. Om Tat Sat. Om Shakti Om.
O Shankari, victory to you who are immanent and transcendent. Victory to you who are the mother of the universe. Victory to you who by your sport are illuminating the universe. Victory to you who are the support of the universe. Victory to you who are the annihilator of the universe. Victory to you who are the soul of everything. Victory to you who are the shining consciousness. Please protect us. O Shankari, victory to you. You are beyond the gunas, action, and class. You are the ambrosial ocean of concentrated consciousness. You are the unlimited supreme eloquence. You are the primordial effulgence. You are the embodiment of liberation. Your thoughts are independent. You dwell in the Manipura-cakra. You are Pashyanti, the second level of the manifestation of speech. Victory to you who are the shining consciousness. Please protect us. Further, in yourself as consciousness, the Madhyama sound is distinct, and you dwell in the Ājñā-cakra with the mixed form of the Madhyama sound, a part of which is cognizable. You transcend the 8 forms of mystic power that are only apparent. You dwell in many wonderful centers, energy vortexes. Victory to you who are the shining consciousness. Please protect us. Though you are the primordial, unique, non-dual consciousness, you assume dualistic forms. You manifest as excellent 15 rays, which become 10 when considered in pairs, and those again in union with other aspects take 4 different forms. O Shankari, victory to you who are the shining consciousness. Please protect us. Though divided, undivided, and manifold, finally you constitute the 14 vowels. You are the 25 consonants grouped into 5. The primordial sound with its modifications takes 4 forms. Further, these 4 levels of the sound, ignoring the subtle portion of Madhyama, are in pairs, considering aspects like bija and yoni for each letter, and Shiva and Shakti aspects. O Shankari, please protect us. You are thus the queen and the mother of knowledge, rich with 51 letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. You are sound, speech. By a clear distinction among the letters, you generate different sounds. Disassociated from your aspect, everything would be naught like the sky. Victory to you who are the shining consciousness. O Shankari, please protect us. O Mother, without your differentiation, the 3 regions would not exist. Without your prominent aspect, even the highest abode would not be other than a mere conjuration. By your skill of combining with them,
You always shine by pervading them. Victory to you who are the shining consciousness. O Shankari, please protect us. Fearing you, we are engaged in the tasks of creation and so on. Though born out of your lotus feet, we are suffering by not comprehending you. O Shankari, please protect us who are afraid, ignorant, and helpless, and who are prostrating before you time and again. Victory to you who are the shining consciousness. O Devi, you are intelligence, Vani, Bharati, Vidya, Mother, Saraswati, Brahmi, Maya, the letters of the alphabet, transcendent, primordium, action and eternity. You are Vikalpa, Nirvikalpa, Aja, Kala, sound, action, the power of time, all forms, auspiciousness, and the supreme, the Vedas. O Mahadevi, O Devi of the universe, protect us. Protect us who are at your feet. O Devi, we bow to you. Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha Harihi Om. Shri Durga Mātṛkā Vinyasa Ādaurishyādi nyāsa. Brahma Vishnu Rudra Rishibhyo Namaha. Gāyatrī Ushne Ganuštubhjam Debhyo Namaha. Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswati Devatabhyo Namaha. Ain Bijaya Namaha. Hri Shaktaye Namaha. Klim Kilakaya Namaha. Ata Durga Mātṛkā nyāsaha. Asya Shri Mahadurga Mātṛkā Mahamantrasya. Brahma Rishihi Gāyatrī Chandaha. Shri Mahadurga Svarupini Mātṛkā Saraswati Devata. Ram Bijam Hring Shakti Hrum Kilakam. Mahadurga Prasada Siddhyarte Mahadurga Mātṛkā nyāse Viniyogaha. Ang ang ing ing ong ong ring ring ling ling. Eng aing ong aung aung aha. Kang kang gang gang yang. Chang chang jang jang yang. Tang tang dang dang nang. Tang tang dang dang nam. Hang pang bang bang bang. Yang rang lang vang shang shang sang hang lang shang. Ang ang ing ing ong ong ring ring ling ling. Eng aing ong aung ang aha. Kang kang gang gang yang. Chang chang jang jang yang. Tang tang dang dang nang. Tang tang dang dang nam. Hang pang bang bang bang. Yang rang lang vang shang shang sang hang lang shang. Ang ang ing ing ong ong ring ring ling ling. Eng aing ong aung ang aha. Kang kang gang gang yang. Chang chang jang jang yang. Tang tang dang dang nang. Tang tang dang dang nam. Hang pang bang bang bang. Yang rang lang vang shang shang sang hang lang shang. Ring shring ang. Kang kang gang gang nang. Ang angushtabhyang namaha. Ring shring ing. Chang chang jang jang yang. Ing tarjanibhyang namaha. Ring shring tang tang dang dang nang. Madhyamabhyang namaha.
Ring Shring Aing Tang Tang Dang Dang Nang Aing Anabhikabhyang Namaha. Ring Shring Aum Pang Pang Bang Bang Mang Aum Kanishtikabhyang Namaha. Ring Shring Ang Yang Rang Lang Vang Shang Shang Sang Hang Kang Shang Aha Karatala Karapishtabhyang Namaha. Ring Shring Ang Kang Kang Gang Gang Nang Ang Hridayaya Namaha. Ring Shring Ing Chang 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 Yang Ing Shirase Swaha. Ring Shring Om Tang Tang Dang Dang Nang Om Shikayai Vyashata. Ring Shring Ing Tang Tang Dang Dang Nang Aing Kavachaya Hum. Ring Shring Om Pam Pam Bam Pam Mam Aum Netratrayaya Vaushata. Ring Shring Ang Yang Rang Lang Vang Shang Shang Sang Hang Lang Shang Aha Astraya Pata. Bhuva Suvaromiti Digbandha Lam Pritivyatmane Gandham Kalpayami. Hang Akashatmane Pushpam Kalpayami. Yang Vaivatmane Dhupam Kalpayami. Rangagyatmane Deepam Kalpayami. Vangamritatmane Amritam Nivedayami. Samsarvatmane Sarvopacharang Kalpayami. Ring Shring Dung Durgaye Namaha. Ang Durgaye Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgaye Namaha. Ang Kaushikayay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Ing Umayay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Ing Chandayay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Maheshwaryay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Shivayay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Ring Vishveshwaryay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Ring Dagadachyay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Ring Stiti Sanharakaranyay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Ring Yoga Nidrayay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Ing Bhagavatyay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Aing Devyay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Om Swahayay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Aum Swadhayay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Am Sudhayay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Asrishtyahutyay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Kankalayay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Kāmayayay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Gangramayay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Ganjeshtayay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Nam Smrityay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Cham Pushtyay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Cham Stityay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Jangatyay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Jangratyay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Nyang Prityay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Tang Drityay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Tang Nityay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Dang Vibhutyay Namaha. Shring Ring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Dang Bhutyay Namaha. Shring Ring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Dang Unatyay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Tang Kshityay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Durgayay Namaha. Tang Kshantyay Namaha. Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Dung Kshatyay Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Dung Kantyay Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Nang Chantyay Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Phang Klantyay Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Phang Mahadyutyay Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Bang Shuddhaye Namaha Ring Ring Dung Dungaye Namaha Bang Pipasaye Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Mang Sprihaye Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Yang Lajjaye Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Rang Nidyaye Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Lang Mudraye Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Bang Chidatmikaye Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Shangirjaye Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Shambharatyaye Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Shang Lakshmyaye Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Hang Shatyaye Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Lam Sangyaye Namaha Ring Shring Dung Dungaye Namaha Shang Vibhavaye Namaha Tata Sarvanga Nyasaha Khadgini Shulini Gora Gadini Chakrini Tata Shankhini Chapini Bana Bhushundi Parigayudha Saumya Saumyatara Shesha Saumyebhyastvati Sundari Para Paranam Paramattvameva Parameshwari Yacha Kinchid Kachid Vastu Sadasadvakilatmine Tasya Sarvasya Ya Shakti Sattvam Kimstuyase Tada Yaya Tvaya Jagat Srashta Jagat Patyatkiyo Jagate Sopi Nidrava Shamnita Kastvang Stotu Maheshwara Vishnu Sharira Grahana Mahamishana Evacha Karitaste Atotastvang Kastotum Shaktiman Bhavet Aim Shulena Pahino Devi Pahi Khadgena Chambike Gantasvanena Napahi Chapagyanishvanena Cha Rakshang Raksha Pratichang Chachandike Raksha Dakshine Ramane Natmasulasya Uttarasyang Tateswari Saumyani Yani Rupani Trailokye Vicharanti Te Yani Chatyartha Gaurani Tairakshasmang Tata Bhuvam Khadgashula Gadadini Yani Shastrani Tembike Karapallava Sangini Tairasman Raksha Sarvataha Ring Sarvaswarupe Sarveshe Sarvasakti Samanvite Bhaye Bhastrahino Devi Durge Devi Namostute Etate Vadanang Saungyang Lochanatraya Bhushitam Atuna Sarva Bhitibhya Katyayani Namostute Jwala Karala Machugra Mashesha Surasudanam Trishulam Patino Bhiter Bhadrakali Namostute Inasti Daitya Tejansi Svanena Puryaya Jakata Saganta Patino Devi Papebhyo Nasutaniva Asura Srigvasa Panka Chartitaste Karojwalaha Shubhaya Khadgo Bhavatu Chandike Tvang Natavayam Kling Ata Mula Sadanga Nyasaha Ain Angustabhyang Namaha Ring Tarjanibhyang Namaha Ling Madhyamabhyang Namaha Chamundaye Anamikabhyang Namaha Viche Kanishtikabhyang Namaha Aing Hring Kling Chamundaya Viche Aratalakala Prishtabhyang Namaha Ata Mula Sadanga Nyasaha Aing Hridayaya Namaha Hring Shirase Svaha, Kling Shikayai Vashata, Chamundayai Kavachaya Hum, Viche Netratrayaya Vaushata, Aing Hring Kling Chamundayai Viche Astraya Pahat, Ata akṣara-nyāsa, Hring Shring Aing Namaha, Hring Shring Hring Namaha, Hring Shring Kling Namaha, Hring Shring Cham Namaha, Hring Shring Mum Namaha, Hring Shring Dang Namaha, Hring Shring Yang Namaha, Hring Shring Ving Namaha, Hring Shring Cheng Namaha. Ata mulena ashtavaram vyapakam vinyasya, Aing Hring Kling Chamundayai Viche, 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 Aing Hring Kling Chamundayai Viche. Ata dasadinyasaha, Ing Shring Aing Rachai Namaha, Hring Shring Aing Ājñā-yai Namaha, Hring Shring Hring Dakshinayai Namaha, Hring Shring Hring Nirityai Namaha, Hring Shring Kling Pratichai Namaha, Hring Shring Kling Vavavyai Namaha, Hring Shring Chamundayai Udichyai Namaha, Hring Shring Viche Ishanyayai Namaha, Hring Shring Aing Hring Kling Chamundayai Viche Udvayai Namaha, Hring Shring Aing Hring Kling Chamundayai Viche Bhumyai Namaha.